I thought prison was the end of the road for guys like him. But late at night, when the lights went out, he started whispering, not to himself, to something else. Whatever Diddy brought in with him, it didn't stay quiet for long. I heard things no man should hear, saw things I'll never forget. And when he looked straight at me through the dark, I knew he knew I was watching. Before I continue, where are you watching from right now? Comment below, and if stories like this hits a nerve, subscribe, and be ready for shocking truths you won't see in the media. They don't tell you much when you first arrive. Just a number, a cell, and the unspoken rule to keep your head down. I did that. I wasn't looking to make friends or enemies. I just wanted to finish my time and forget the sound of metal doors locking behind me. The guy in the cell across from mine didn't talk, didn't pace, didn't shout. He just sat there most days quiet, like he was waiting for something. His cell had heavier locks and a second layer of glass behind the bars, which I figured meant money or fame. Maybe both. But we don't get TMZ in here. So unless someone says it out loud, you're just guessing like everyone else. At first, I didn't pay him any attention. In here, the less you notice, the safer you are. But after a few weeks, things started to feel off. Like the block got colder at night. Like the lights above our doors flickered more when the sun went down. Could have been nothing. But after midnight, I'd hear sounds coming from his cell, low, steady. Not coughing, not sleep talking. More like humming. Like someone trying to keep a rhythm nobody else was supposed to hear. One morning during show, a guy at our table, old head, been down over a decade, nodded toward that cell and muttered under his breath, "That's where they put the industry types now. Big fish. They don't bleed the same." I asked what he meant, and he just gave me this long look, like I should have already known. That's Puff. Watch your ears when the lights go out. That's when it hit me. Puff. Diddy. Whatever you want to call him. The name lands different when you realize he's sleeping 10 feet away from you. Locked up, but somehow still untouchable. I don't know what I expected. Maybe more security, maybe more noise. But the weird part was how quiet it all was. The guards barely spoke his name. Other inmates didn't call out to him. It was like he wasn't really there, like we were all pretending the cell across from mine was just empty. Still, you can't help but notice things. Like how his meal tray always came in last and left first, but nobody ever saw him eat. Or how every once in a while, right after lights out, I'd hear the faintest shuffle, like bare feet moving in a slow circle on concrete. No footsteps, just friction, slow and steady. One night I sat up on my bunk and listened. No TV, no toilets flushing, just that soft scraping sound and something else underneath it, like breath, controlled, measured, almost like reciting. I told myself it was nothing. He was rich, probably stressed. Maybe this was how he coped. Mantras, breathing, meditation, whatever. That's what I wanted to believe. But I grew up around dudes who tried to hold demons at bay with candles and whispers. I've seen what happens when those whispers aren't just for peace of mind, when they're for bargaining. Still, I wasn't looking to get involved. I kept my eyes low, my door closed, and my thoughts to myself. But the nights kept getting heavier. The air felt thicker. Some mornings I'd wake up sweating, like I'd been running in my sleep. And always across the block he was awake before everyone. Sitting upright in the dark, waiting. That's when I started saving voice notes on my phone. The cheap one they don't know I have. Just thoughts. Things I didn't want to forget in case they ever started not making sense. Like how his eyes never seemed tired. Like how the humming didn't stop, not even when the guards came around. I wasn't trying to get in trouble. I didn't care about fame or rumors or what he'd done on the outside. But once you realize the man across from you might not be praying, you start to wonder who he's actually talking to. And if they ever start answering. At first, I tried to ignore it. You tell yourself not to notice things in here. Not if you want to stay sane. But it's hard not to notice a man who doesn't speak all day, suddenly whispering to the dark after lights out. It wasn't every night, just the ones where the air felt still, like the block was holding its breath. That's when it would start. Not loud, not angry, just constant, low and deliberate. I couldn't make out the words, but it didn't sound like English or Spanish or anything I'd ever heard. Some guys talk in their sleep, some pray. This felt timed, pacing between syllables. A certain beat, like a rhythm only he knew. Sometimes I'd hear short breaks, like he was listening, then starting again. I told myself I was being paranoid. But paranoia fades fast in here. You get used to things. I tried to let it go. Then one night I woke up out of nowhere. Not from a dream, but like something pulled me up by the spine. My body felt cold, even under the blanket. The whole block was silent except for him, whispering again. But it was faster now. Urgent. Like he was repeating something over and over, trying to lock it in. I leaned off the edge of my bunk, just barely, and pressed my ear toward the door. His voice carried more than it should have. The acoustics on our block are trash, but somehow, his voice curved into mine like it had weight. Like the words weren't coming from his mouth, but through it. It stopped the second I moved. No slam, no footsteps. Just cut off, like he knew. Next morning, he was already sitting up, back straight, staring forward, like nothing happened. I told myself maybe I imagined it. Maybe I was dreaming. But when I turned my head, I saw something on the floor outside my door. A tiny piece of paper folded 4 times, tucked near the edge of the gate. I didn't touch it. I didn't even get close. I just stared at it. Eventually, the guards came through for head count, and someone kicked it away. No one said a word. That same day, a guy from 2 cells down collapsed in the yard. Seizure. He was 32, in shape, no known health issues. They carried him out fast, and nobody saw him again. We asked questions, but the COs just told us to stop running our mouths. People get sick in here. Mind your own. That night, there was no whispering, just silence. I thought maybe it was over. Maybe he got tired or scared or moved on to something else. But the block felt even heavier than before. Like whatever he'd been doing had shifted the air somehow. I couldn't explain it. You'd wake up feeling like you'd been watched. Like something had circled the room while you slept, but left no trace. The next time it happened, I didn't even hear him start. I just realized it was already happening. No warning. Like my body had tuned in before my brain did. Same rhythm, same language I couldn't place. I laid there frozen. I didn't want to hear it, but I couldn't turn it off. There was something in the sound that pulled, not hypnotic, not soothing. Just deep, cold, like it came from somewhere old. And this time, I swear I heard another voice whisper back. I sat up so fast I hit my head on the edge of the bunk. The sound stopped. My ears were ringing, like something had screamed into them from the inside. I didn't sleep again that night. I stayed awake, trying to write down what I could remember. The pattern, the pressure, the quiet voice underneath his, the one that didn't sound like it belonged to anyone alive. I didn't know what he was doing, but I was starting to think it wasn't for him. It was for something that needed him to get it right. You ever feel like a place changes without anyone saying it out loud? Like something shifts, but nobody names it. They just act different. That's what started happening on our block. The vibe turned, not all at once. Just a little more strange each day. People got quieter. Meals got shorter. Some of the loudest dudes started keeping to themselves. Like they felt something in the air they couldn't explain but still knew to respect. That kind of silence is different from fear. It's like instinct. Like something inside you saying, don't draw attention right now. It wasn't just me hearing him at night. I know that now. A couple guys started asking about the block's wiring. Why the lights flickered so often around cell 28. One said he kept waking up with nosebleeds. Another swore he hadn't slept more than 2 hours straight in a week, even though he was dead tired. But whenever someone tried to bring it up for real, like really ask what the hell was going on, the conversation would just trail off. People didn't want to talk about it, like naming it would make it worse. I kept my mouth shut, but I watched. And I started noticing things. Like the guards who normally joked around or leaned on the rails, they avoided that cell now. You'd see them pause before walking past it. One of them, the younger one with the limp, he used to bring meds down our block during pill run. I watched him one day stand outside 28, just staring in for a few seconds longer than he should have, then blink and walk off like he forgot what he came for. He never came back after that shift. I asked another CO what happened to him, and the guy just said, transferred. Happens. Maybe it does, but not like that. One night, I heard something different in the rhythm. Same whispering, but this time it was broken up. Like there were responses, short ones. Quiet, but not in the same voice. It didn't sound like an echo. It sounded like a call and response. That was the first night I really considered it might not be just him in there. A few days later, he had a visitor. We're not supposed to be able to see anything. Visitation happens in a separate part of the facility, no windows. But that day, the block doors buzzed open and 2 guards walked someone past our unit toward the back hallway. No cuffs, no ID tag. Long black coat, face covered, moving like he owned the place. He stopped right outside cell 28, didn't speak, just stood there staring at the door, like he was listening. Then one of the guards unlocked the slot and passed something through. Could have been paper. Could have been something smaller. I couldn't see it clearly, but I know what I felt. Cold, deep cold, like the kind that hits your chest in winter and makes you think about your lungs, the kind that doesn't match the air around you. Next morning, everything was normal, on the surface. But the guy in 14B, who'd been keeping track of the chanting, he stopped talking to anyone. Said his dreams had been bleeding into the day. Said he kept hearing voices through water. They moved him to mental health the next week. I asked a CO where he went. The CO said, "You asking too many questions," and walked off. That was when I stopped pretending this was about one man. He wasn't just passing time in that cell. He wasn't breaking down. He was preparing for what I didn't know. But I had the sense, the deep, heavy sense, that whatever it wasn't just about him. It wasn't about the sentence. Something was building, and the rest of us were just in the way. And if you're still watching, do you think it's possible for a person to change the energy of an entire room or a whole block just by being there? It happened during a lockdown malfunction. One of the control doors on our tier jammed during evening count, so they had to reset the panel. That means for about 30 seconds, our doors clicked open. Not enough to step out, but enough to see. Just a sliver of visibility if you timed it right. I didn't plan to look. I wasn't trying to stir anything up. But when my door buzzed, I stood, glanced down the block, and my eyes landed straight across into his cell. And that's when I saw it. The floor wasn't bare. It had markings. Not drawn. Carved. Faint, shallow lines that formed a circle about 6 feet wide. Inside it were symbols. I didn't recognize any of them. They weren't letters. They weren't art. They looked functional. Like instructions, not decoration. The kind of thing you don't create. The kind of thing you're taught. They were filled in with something dark. Not ink. Not dirt. I don't want to guess. But they caught the light in a way that felt wrong. Thick and dull, like it hadn't dried completely. He wasn't in the cell at that moment. Not that I could see. Just the marks, the stillness, and a weird sense that I wasn't supposed to be seeing any of it. Like someone was watching me see it. Then the locks slammed back in place, and the view was gone. I sat back on my bunk with my heart thudding in my neck. I didn't know what I just looked at, only that it had been deliberate. Not rage, not insanity, something planned, something repeated. That night, I didn't eat. I barely moved. I waited for the whispering to start, but it didn't. Instead, the power cut. Total blackout. Emergency lights are supposed to kick in within 5 seconds. Every cell has one. Ours didn't. Not for almost a full minute. And in that dark, all I heard was breath, not panic. Not shouting. Just this low, heavy breath echoing from cell 28. Then came the chant. No whisper this time. No soft edge. Just a voice, his voice, louder than before, clear and full of something that didn't sound human anymore. Not deep. Not growled. Just hollow, like the sound came from somewhere deeper than his chest. It pulsed in intervals, like waves. And then the strange part, I wasn't the only one awake. Across the block, I could hear people moving in their bunks. Some were mumbling, some were swaying. One guy in the upper tier started humming low, matching the beat like he didn't even know he was doing it. It was like something had cinched us all up. But I wasn't moving. I wasn't humming. I was frozen. And I started to feel this pressure behind my eyes, like heat, like my body was trying to join in, even if my mind didn't want to. I crawled down to the floor, covered my ears, and tried to breathe slow. That's when I felt it, this sharp sting against my palm. I looked down. There was a tiny scratch, just one, fresh. From what, I don't know. I hadn't touched anything. And then everything stopped. Power came back. Lights flickered, then held. His voice went silent. Everyone went still, like waking up from sleep you didn't mean to fall into. Next morning, I saw a guard wheeling a mop bucket down the block. One of the kios, the quiet one, was scrubbing the floor outside 28. Not inside the cell, outside, where the door met the tier. I asked what happened. He looked at me for a second, like he was deciding whether I'd be stupid enough to keep asking. Then he said, "Nothing happened. Stay out of it." And I knew right then, it wasn't just him. Whatever was happening in that cell, the staff knew after that blackout night. I stopped pretending I was just observing. I wasn't a bystander anymore. I was in it, whether I wanted to be or not. He never said a word to me, not once, but I knew he knew I'd been listening. It started with the glances. Subtle at first. During head count, he'd look past the guards, just for a second, eyes locking with mine before returning to his tray. Never long enough to get called on it. Just enough to let me know. I covered my window after that, took a torn strip from my laundry bag and draped it over the slot in my door. Told the others it was for sleep, but the truth was, I didn't want to give him a clear line into my cell anymore. One morning, I woke up and found something tied to the leg of my bunk. Thin black thread, knotted 3 times. No note, no message, not trash. Just placed there, deliberate, quiet. Nobody should have been able to get into my cell. I flushed it without thinking, then spent the rest of the day watching over my shoulder, palms damp. I couldn't stop wondering, was it a threat, or was it an invitation? That night, I pulled out the phone. The one I wasn't supposed to have. It was a burner, cheap and dusty. Something I traded for and kept buried behind the metal panel near the floor vent. Wrapped in plastic, battery out, always cold to the touch. I'd only used it twice. Just for music, never for calls, never for risk. But that night, I had to know if I was losing it. I reassembled it in the dark, hit record, and shoved it deep under my blanket. I didn't speak. I just lay there, waiting for his voice. But it didn't come. That was almost worse. The block was silent. Too silent. Not even the normal prison noise. No toilets flushing, no bunk creaks. Just this tight stillness that made you feel like breathing too loud would set something off. I stayed still. For minutes, maybe hours. I don't know. And then I heard it. Not chanting, not even whispering. A breath, right outside my door. Not across the hall. Not from his side. From mine. It was soft, but close. Like someone had their mouth right up to the steel and was exhaling slow. And then I heard it. A voice. Listening again. I froze. It didn't sound like him. Not exactly. It was thinner. Wrong. Like something trying to copy his tone, but missing the weight behind it. Like someone wearing a voice that didn't fit. I couldn't move. Couldn't even blink for a moment. Then it stopped. When I finally sat up, everything looked normal. The slit was still covered. My door still locked. But the air had this thickness to it. sour, like breath that had nowhere to go. The next morning, I told the CO I wasn't feeling right. Asked for medical. Said I was lightheaded. He looked me over and said, "You don't look sick. You look scared." He called it an anyway. They moved me to the medical observation room for 2 nights. A temporary break from the tier. No whispers. No cold. Just sterile walls and humming lights. I thought maybe I was safe there. That's when I used the phone again. Quick, careful. Just a short message to my sister, disguised in a thread under a fake contact name. I deleted it after sending. I didn't give her the full story. Not yet. Just enough to make her pause. I told her, if anything happened to me, and the phone ever got out, she'd know what to do. She replied with a question mark. I didn't answer. That second night, I had a dream, one I still can't explain. I was in my own cell. Everything in place. But he was in there too, standing in the corner, arms out like he was being held up by strings. He wasn't moving on his own. I opened my mouth to speak, but nothing came out. And then, without turning his body, he turned his head, slow, and smiled. That's when I woke up, mouth dry, heart racing, and scratched into the inside seam of my pillowcase one word. Written small but deep. Still, I got moved back to the block early the next morning. Everything looked the same, but it didn't feel the same. The kind of difference you can't name, but you feel it in your stomach. Like the floor shifted half an inch while you were gone, and nobody told you. The others were quieter than usual. A few guys nodded when I came back, but there was no small talk. Even the ones who normally cracked jokes just kept their heads down. Not out of fear. It was something else. Like they were all waiting for something to finish. And nobody wanted to interrupt. He was sitting on his bunk when I walked past his cell. Didn't look at me. Didn't move. Didn't blink. Just breathing slow and steady like he already knew the clock had run out on whatever he'd been building. That whole day, the guards acted strange too. Not nervous. The opposite. They moved like everything was in place. They didn't rush, didn't make jokes, didn't do anything extra. Just routine. Clean, measured, like they were following instructions nobody else got to hear. When lights out came, it felt almost ceremonial. Like we weren't being locked down. We were being put away, tucked into place so something else could move through the building without interruption. I was lying flat on my bunk when the power cut. No buzz. No warning. Just a full hard stop. The blackout wasn't like last time. Last time it felt like a glitch. Unexpected, messy. This time it felt planned. Like the building had been holding its breath all day, and now it was finally allowed to exhale. The emergency lights didn't come on. Not after 5 seconds. Not after 30. Not at all. I sat up slow, trying not to make noise. And then I heard it. Not his voice. Not yet. This was something else. Footsteps. Bare. Deliberate. Too slow to be natural. They echoed down the tier, soft and steady, and with each one I felt this tightness crawl across my chest, like my body was already warning me, don't get involved. There were more than one. You could tell by the spacing, the rhythm. They didn't talk. They didn't breathe heavy. They just moved right past my door, down the line, and stopped at his cell. I don't know what made me look. Maybe I thought I needed to confirm it was real. Maybe I just wanted to feel in control for 1 second. Either way, I stood up and peered through the crack in the fabric I draped over my window. There were 4 of them. I couldn't see faces, just shapes, jumpsuits like the rest of us, but not from this block. Too clean, too new. They moved like their bodies didn't belong to them, like every step was being guided from somewhere else. One of them held something in both hands. A sack, maybe? Or cloth. I couldn't see what was inside, but it was wet at the bottom, dripping. Still. The others just stood there, arms at their sides, waiting. Inside the cell, he stood in the circle I'd seen before. Bare chest. Arms out just enough to make it look like he was balancing something in the air. He didn't move. He didn't speak. But the humming started not from him, but from somewhere else. It wasn't music. It wasn't sound. It was pressure. Like the block itself had started to vibrate under our skin, like the bricks and steel were remembering something. For a moment, just a blink, the back of the cell didn't look solid. It shimmered. Not like fire, not like smoke. More like the shape of something that couldn't fully form in front of you. And then, without any signal, the object in the figure's hands dropped. A single soft thud. No screams, no movement, just release. And right after that, I heard it. Every door on our block unlocked at the same time. Not opened, just unlatched. The sound was subtle, barely there. If you were asleep, you wouldn't have noticed it. But if you were listening, if you were like me, sitting up in the dark, heart racing in your throat, then you heard it loud and clear. I didn't move. I didn't check my door. I just stared at the floor and waited for it to be over. And then, as suddenly as it had gone, the power came back. White, harsh, buzzing. The kind of light that makes you squint like you've been in the dark too long. When I looked up, the hallway was empty. His cell was closed. Lights off. No trace of anyone. The next morning, nobody asked questions. The usual loudmouths barely looked at each other. One guy crossed himself when he walked past 28. Another walked with his hands in his pockets, like he didn't trust what they might touch. I asked a CO if anything happened during the blackout. He looked at me too long. Then he said, "Flat, you didn't see nothing. You didn't hear nothing. Don't think about it again." And the way he said it, it didn't sound like a warning. It sounded like an instruction someone gave him. I waited 3 more nights after that. Didn't sleep much, didn't speak to anyone. Just stayed quiet, made my movements small, and tried not to draw attention. The guards didn't look at me. The other inmates didn't say my name. It was like I'd started to fade along with everything else. He didn't chant anymore. No whispers, no breath against the door. Just silence. The kind of silence that feels permanent, like it isn't waiting to be filled, like whatever needed to be done had already been done. On the 4th morning, something changed. I woke up early, before the tier lights came on. The air felt different, not heavy, not electric, just still. I sat up slow, stretched, tried to shake off the weight in my limbs. Then I looked across the block. His cell was dark, still locked, but I didn't see him. Sometimes he sat in the corner, out of view. Sometimes he'd be up early too, just sitting at the edge of his bunk like he was waiting for orders. But that morning, nothing? No movement, no shadow, just absence. I kept glancing, trying not to make it obvious. But the longer I looked, the more certain I became. He wasn't in there. No guards came. No commotion. No announcement. Just silence. And for the rest of the day, nobody spoke his name. I checked again the next morning. Still nothing. No new occupant. No tray deliveries. No laundry pickup. No lights turned on. It was like they were keeping the cell staged. Like removing him would force them to explain where he went. I waited 2 more days. Watching. Listening. I needed to be sure before I used the phone again. When I finally pulled it out, I knew it'd be the last time. I'd already wiped most of the messages, buried the recordings behind a fake music folder. But that last voice memo, the one I'm sending out now, it's the only thing I didn't hide. Because it's not for me anymore. It's for whoever finds it. I recorded this in pieces. Whenever the cell was quiet, whenever the guards weren't watching, I never spoke louder than a whisper. I never said his name. But if you've been listening this far, then you understand what I'm saying without me needing to spell it out. I don't know what happened to him. I don't know what I saw. I don't even know if he was still him in those last few days. But I know this, the people running this place, they know. And whatever it wasn't about punishment. It wasn't about time served. It was about something older, something bigger. And none of us were supposed to see it. That's all I've got. I don't know what I was really seeing in that cell. I don't know what any of it meant. The symbols, the sounds, the silence. All I know is something was happening in there. And whatever it was, it wasn't meant for the rest of us to notice. Let me ask you something. Have you ever heard a story that felt too quiet to be fake, but too strange to explain? Let me know what you think. Drop your thoughts in the comments! And if this left you unsettled, if it made you question how deep this thing really goes, like this video, share it, and hit subscribe, because this isn't the only voice memo that made it out.